Hot takes. Get your hot takes here. Fresh, hot out of the oven. I'm glad you're here. Let's get started.
The opinions expressed in this video are my own. They do not represent my employer, my household, my parents, my cats, all dogs, or some fish. 100% Jill by volume, your mileage may vary. Enjoy responsibly.
Alright, let me set the scene. It is May, and I am spending a lot of time on Twitter talking to a new friend and bonding over our shared love of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm about to embark on a rewatch, my first in many years. Well, here's the plot twist. It was 2018, and I joined the ranks of the diehards and holdouts in one of the most stubborn and tenacious groups in 21st century fandom. Zutara shippers. They are a group who, until recently, really just wanted to write their fic and draw their art and generally be left alone to their own devices and enjoyment. Now, if that is unlike the experience you had of this fandom, I can only speak to myself. I did not watch the show as it was airing. I was not involved in the fandom at the time. So if you have ship war battle scars, I'm very sorry. That was not the experience that I had. I'm what you call shipping agnostic. Especially in fanfic, if the writing supports the thesis of the story, I'll probably give it a read. Unsurprising for a show on Nickelodeon whose viewership ranged in age from the intended age group all the way up to grown adults, there were a lot of opinions, especially about shipping. This is a fandom where multi-shipping can really feel verboten, especially if you ship Zutara. A troubling pattern started to emerge in the corner of the internet I was hanging out in, and that was excessive hate for the character May. And it really wasn't even just about her relationship with Zuko. What started as, ship bashing would then evolve into reductive misogyny. Nuance and empathy that were afforded other characters, she just didn't get. You always have your Azula stans and people who love Ty Lee, but Maya just never really got it. While I've definitely read fic, where they're the main pairing, they're not really my main ship. And then a thing happened. 2020 happened.
2020, what the actual fuck?
And in my quarantine madness, I decided, fuck it. I'm gonna start doing fan vids. I never made a fan vid before, but I had a whole bunch of ideas. And the one that seemed the best suited for Babby's first fan vid was a fan vid about Zuko over the course of season 3. And it was set to Riches and Wonders by the Mountain Goats as covered by Eliza Rickman. If you are not familiar with this particular cover, it is from the podcast I Only Listen to the Mountain Goats. I was very excited by this idea, but I was kind of worried that it would put May in a bad light. The song describes a couple who are codependent and toxic and just generally bad for each other. So, a Mountain Goat song. But it really reminded me of how I remembered May and Zuko's relationship being, both because of the distance from my previous rewatch, and also spending 2 years listening about how awful this character is. When I rewatched season 3 for clips for the video, here's what actually happened. Most of the problems that people had with May's character weren't true. And I found myself wondering, why does preferring one ship to another mean May has to suck? There are 3 perceived sins of May. Moving forward, we're going to refer to them as myths. Myth 1. No emotional depth. People assume that Mei's subdued demeanor is the entirety of her personality. Prior to season 3, whenever we see her, she's either under the thumb of her parents or Azula. She's masking her emotions as a reaction against either a repressive environment or an abusive friend. In the episode The Beach, which is one of my favorite episodes of the entire series for quite a few different reasons, we see Mei lose her cool over the course of the weekend that's shown in the episode. Zuko goes on a similar journey as he gets more and more frustrated as his attempts at being a good boyfriend, misguided though they are, go more and more off the rails. This all comes to a head at the end at a bonfire on the beach. Here, all 4 teenagers confess their inner turmoils to varying degrees of sincerity or comedic intent. But here's what we learn about Mei.
You want a teary confession about how hard my childhood was? Well, it wasn't. I was a rich only child who got anything I wanted, as long as I behaved, and sat still, and didn't speak unless spoken to. My mother said I had to keep out of trouble. We had my dad's political career to think about.
So look, it's perfectly reasonable to find guarded and emotionally withholding behavior unpleasant to be around. But saying this is a reason that Mei sucks feels like punishing her for her own defense mechanisms. Myth 2. Unsupportive. The season 3 premiere is the first time we see Mei and Zuko interact as allies. Previously, we'd only seen them interact in flashbacks or the occasional battle scene. Despite the nearly 8-month gap between the season 2 finale and the season 3 premiere, it's kind of hard not to compare this.
This is water from the Spirit Oasis at the North Pole. It has special properties, so I've been saving it for something important. I don't know if it would work, but...
With this.
Aren't you cold?
I've got a lot on my mind. It's been so long. Over 3 years since I was home. I wonder what's changed. I wonder how I've changed.
I just asked if you were cold. I didn't ask for your whole life story.
The contrast between an empathetic adversary and a thorny ally are kind of hard to miss. Throw romantic implications into both scenes into the mix, and you've got cannon fodder for a real ship war. But that takes us to Myth 3. No character development. This is the myth that I found really disproved when I made that fan vid, but it also made me understand better why the myths persisted. Mei is introduced in the season 2 episode Return to Omashu. This is the episode where Azula goes to recruit both Ty Lee and Mei to her cause. The cause, of course, being hunting down Zuko and Iroh, and maybe the Avatar too if she's lucky. The episode even closes on the implication that in the past there was something between Mei and Zuko.
Oh, we're tracking down your brother and uncle, huh?
It'll be interesting seeing Zuko again, won't it, Mei?
The last time Mei saw Zuko, they were 11 and 13, and any contact they would have had ended when Zuko was burned and then banished. Insert a very tasteless carrying a torch pun here. Anyway, that small smile that we see at the end of the episode is the first time we see her really positively react to something that isn't chaos or violence. A few episodes later, we're shown even a little bit more of that history.
Azula? Watch this. Now what you do is, try to knock the apple off the other person's head, like this. Would work. Aw, they're so cute together. You two are such...
Now here's where things get frustrating. All of the relevant moments where we see Mei grow and change are the tiniest fraction of the 3rd season. Credit where credit is due to the showrunners, they do manage to pack a lot of character development into such a small amount of time. Zuko and Mei both grow, they both change. even both learn how to be reasonably effective partners. I mean, as effective as a pair of teenagers who are in desperate need of therapy can be. May has most of her screen time in The Awakening, The Headband, The Beach, and Nightmares and Daydreams. Not including The Beach, we get a whole 3 minutes and 23 seconds of screen time that focuses on her and Zuko. And this is set against the whole 21 hours of the 3rd season. Since The Beach is a one-stop shop for character development for the Fire Nation teens, the small arc that we do see across the other episodes is really important. Let's break it down really quick. We go from...
I just asked if you were cold. I didn't ask for your whole life story.
To...
Orange is such an awful color.
You're so beautiful when you hate the world.
I don't hate you.
I don't hate you too.
To then within one episode from...
Like that all-day war meeting coming up.
War meeting? What are you talking about?
Azula mentioned something. I assumed you were going too.
To...
Zuko, it's just a dumb meeting. Who cares?
I don't.
Well, good. You shouldn't. I mean, why would you even want to go? Just think about how things went at the last war meeting you went to.
To finally...
So, how did it go?
When I got to the meeting, everyone welcomed me. My father had saved me a seat. He wanted me next to him. I was literally at his right hand.
I don't know about you, but I don't see someone who's emotionless, has no development, or is unsupportive of her significant other, especially given the events of The Boiling Rock Part 2.
You miscalculated. I love Zuko more than I fear you.
I do, however, see extremely nuanced moments that easily and understandably got lost against the second half of a season that was some of the best television ever created. While there's practically an entire subgenre of fanfic about Zuko joining the gang at the end of Season 2, it was extremely crucial to his character development that he sided with Azula and returned home to the Caldera. He needs to go home to realize what he no longer wants or needs. Unfortunately, this ultimately includes Mai. Once again, it's impossible not to compare her place in Zuko's story with Katara's, and it's easy to see whose impact is more profound. From a shipping standpoint, Mai gets seriously shortchanged. She and Zuko are sweet together, and they have a history, and she's extremely his type. You know, someone who would kill him as soon as kiss him. All of this means that when Mai returns at the very end, she feels like an afterthought. And she feels like an afterthought because she kind of was.
Ugh.
You need some help with that?
Mai, you're okay.
The scene is reported to have originally been storyboarded as Zuko's mother returning from banishment on the day of his coronation. Going by the comics, they chose to go a very different route with Ursa's story. I admittedly like the idea of Zuko and Mai getting together at the end of the story. They're both pretty traumatized teenagers with a mutual attraction, and they don't really have anyone who would stop them. And if they did get together then, also realizing later that while they were good for each other at one point, they're maybe not so great for each other now. Imagine a few years down the line when the Fire Sages are starting to worry about the line of succession, and they start looking at Mai because she's been the one that's been around all this time. Based on what we see of Mai both in the show and later in the comics, being a political wife is basically the last thing she would have ever wanted. As of now, it's still unclear who Fire Lord Azumi's mother was. If the showrunners know, they're not saying. I do think Mai and Zuko trauma bonding makes sense, but I don't think it sustains. Especially when she's not the girl he literally just took lightning for. You knew this was coming. Alright, look folks. If I didn't do a good enough job in the intro, I'm gonna lay the cards on the table right now. Oh, I ship these two idiots. I ship it like FedEx. I ship it like the British Navy. Insert any circa 2007 LiveJournal joke about shipping here, because that's how I feel about them. If the previous section about Mai didn't demonstrate my intentions to be fair...
To be fair.
I will do my best to take as literary a stance about Zuko and Katara now. Let us for a moment pretend there is no ship war. There is no wank. There are no bad takes. It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? What is the purest distillation of the intention and meaning behind Avatar: The Last Airbender? The answer is balance. Building on frequently used imagery throughout the whole series, the intention, reinforced time and again, is balance. Balance is needed to begin the work of fixing the world of Avatar. An extremely effective way of showing a return to balance in that world is for the Ascending Fire Lord to end up with the last waterbender of the Southern Water Tribe, arguably a royal in her own right. Even setting aside romance, the relationship between Zuko and Katara is the most balanced, narratively, metaphorically, symbolically, and yeah, even emotionally, of the entire series. Elements of their characters, from family structure, absent mothers, and their eventual place in the group dynamic, show just how well they complement each other. Where Zuko struggles with proving his goodness, Katara struggles with the fact that she's not entirely good. Crucially, each of them are key to resolving the other's struggles. Let's keep it 100. I don't really want to talk about Katara and Aang, but they are the canon ship, so I wondered what I had to say back in 2009 when I finished watching the show for the first time. So I looked at my old live journal and... oh.
Well, I'm actually a bit squicked by Katang. Katara is so maternal with Aang, and I don't ever see that going away. I felt like Katara and Zuko's relationship at least evolved with the plot. All Katara got with Aang was some dancing where she suddenly realized a physical attraction. I wasn't convinced.
Folks, I never went near the fandom when the show was airing. This is literally my take from my live journal at the time I watched it, a year later than everyone else did. Just pure and unadulterated. I'll buy into pretty much any ship, but the writing has to support it. And here it really just didn't. But let's be real. These are kids ranging in ages from 13 to 17, so I would really hope that no one was trying to plan their entire future with one person already. Oh. I genuinely think that the worst thing the showrunners did was to have the series close on a shot of Aang and Katara kissing. It came out of nowhere, it didn't feel earned, and it gave pop culture one last example of the good guy gets the girl because he won and kept trying trope. Around this time, showrunners were starting to realize that maybe this was a bad message to send to children, so things were starting to change. You know, progress, that's good. I like the idea even of no one getting together at the end of the show. I like the idea of Aang going off into the world and doing Avatar things by himself. And then Katara running into him a few years later and just having this entire existential crisis of, oh no, he's hot. Like, that's at least more interesting. It gives her more agency, and it's not whatever that personality bending crap was at the end of the series. To conclude, ship and let ship, folks. Multi-shipping is good, actually. Just because one ship exists doesn't mean another can't. If you're going to hate a character, fine, that's the internet, that's how things go. But make sure that the thing that you're hating is there actually in the text. You know, make sure that you're not hating on something that some fan came up with and then just got mimetically perpetuated throughout the rest of the internet. That has happened plenty of times, and those are legitimate things to be, you know, angry about, but that's not what's in the text. But, you know, this is why we have, you know, things like Talmud scholars and the Midrash and medieval literature studies people still arguing over the same texts for the last several hundred years. You know, human condition and all that. And as always, read the tags. Don't like, don't read. The tags are there for your protection. You know, like the wrap on a hotel toilet. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, please leave a like, subscribe, maybe click that bell. That'd be cool. I've got links down below where you can find me elsewhere on the internet, especially Patreon if you wanted to be super duper cool. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble about some fandom shit for a while. I really do appreciate it. See you next time.